you want to go first? Or?
My name is Alex Edwards. I am arguing for the DC side. I'm on digital journalism in my second year.
I'm Billy Reid. I'm an instructor in media, and I'm arguing for Marvel.
All right, we all good, Wilson? Good to go? So, first question. Which universe characters are more relatable, Marvel or DC? So this would be across the animated, the films, and the comics. I'll let you start on this one.
I would say it's quite a simple, straightforward answer, and that's got to be Marvel. Stanley has said it a million times, a million ways. Marvel's characters are relatable. They're the everyman. They are the ones who still get acne, have money problems, struggle with their life. They aren't just gods who can do anything. And for a long time, that's how comics were. Doesn't always shine through in the films, TV shows. It's there in elements, but especially in the comics, it's got to be Marvel a million times over.
How much do you relate to Vision? So while there are certain... What character would you say is a very relatable person? Because for Marvel, I do actually have a shout for what character I'd say is very relatable.
The immediate one is Spider-Man. That's where everyone jumps to.
So see, Spider-Man. I would have said Hawkeye is probably one of the most relatable characters in Marvel. But to that I say, pretty much every DC character has a bit of Hawkeye in him, has a bit of Spider-Man in him. So it goes all the way back to Batman, for example, who probably, apart from Superman, would be the biggest sort of character in DC universe. And Batman, you know, he loses his parents, goes through all this loss and this grief, builds himself up. That comes with a lot of mental health and stuff like that. A lot of
with billions of dollars, but
billions of dollars, but money doesn't buy happiness, and I think Batman sort of personifies that. Even Superman, who's sort of this god amongst men and everything like that. There's been TV shows which shows Clark Kent and stuff like that, and really personalises him, allows him to be a more relatable everyman. So I think DC does really well at taking these big, larger than life characters and brings them down and sheds their layers so that you can see the man behind them.
I would disagree. I would say they do a select few very well and the rest not at all, whereas Marvel is either in the middle or beyond that. So Spider-Man is obviously the immediate one, like I say, everyone jumps for. To answer your question with Vision, for example, it depends what version of Vision we're going for. I'll take the MCU one, for example. Confusion, identity crisis, why am I here, what is the point? Sacrifice, not only for a loved one, admittedly I haven't had to sacrifice myself for like the fate of the universe, but regardless, sacrifice, putting yourself second, I think it's all there. That's not to say that isn't the case in DC, for example, but even, you know, the larger than life characters within Marvel, the godlike characters, they're always invested in some sort of mythology, you know, Norse, Greek, etc. Thor being a good example. And I feel like all of their characters are humanised to some extent, whereas with DC it seems to be that either they are completely humanified, if that makes sense, or sort of not at all.
Well, you mentioned Thor in Endgame, where he's dealing with his PTSD, he's putting a lot of weight, he's crying a lot. That was treated as a joke. And that was one of the biggest criticisms of Endgame, is how they treated Thor's mental health as a joke. So if people are relating to their mental health being treated as a joke, is that a good thing?
I think it's a spectrum. It depends whereabouts on it you lie, because, for example, some people's coping mechanism is comedy, and if he had stayed that way and been helpless throughout the film, then fair enough. But the manner in which it takes Rocket to do so, but him getting his acting gear come the third act, not being scared of Thanos, because, like you say, PTSD-wise, he sorts himself out, so to speak. It depends what that through line is. If he just remains a joke and he is the little chubby fat kid who's struggling with his life playing Fortnite, then no. But the way in which that arc ends, I think... You have a point, though. You are right in what you're saying, because, it shouldn't be treated as a joke, but it depends what your coping mechanism is, really.
Okay, well... Yeah, fair enough. All right, we'll move on to the next one.
Okay.